This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. The latest coronavirus milestone for the United States, reaching more than 4 million cases. The crisis has forced President Donald Trump to cancel plans for a 4-night Republican convention in Florida. He's also softening his stance on schools reopening and asking Congress for $100 billion to help schools open safely. Heather Sells has the latest.
The president is still pushing to reopen schools, but he acknowledged it might not be possible in the hardest hit areas.
In cities or states that are current hotspots, and you'll see that in the map behind me, districts may need to delay reopening for a few weeks, and that's possible. That'll be up to governors.
But he insisted every school should be preparing to open and said many districts can reopen safely as long as they have necessary measures in place. He's also encouraging parents to make their own decisions for their children, and that may include leaving the public schools.
If schools do not reopen, the funding should go to parents to send their child to public, private, charter, religious, or homeschool of their choice. The key word being choice.
The CDC issued new guidance for parents on Thursday, much of it emphasizing the importance of reopening schools. It acknowledged how little is known about how the virus spreads among children. It also noted some data that suggests that kids are less likely to get it, and if they do, less likely to get seriously ill. And also because of the virus, the president called off plans for the Republican convention in Jacksonville, Florida.
I'll still do a convention speech in a different form, but we won't do a big, crowded convention per se. It's just not the right time for that.
A small group of delegates will formally nominate the president in Charlotte, North Carolina on August 24th. The event is expected to last just 4 hours. Heather Sells, CBN News.
And be sure to tune into Faith Nation this evening for the latest from our nation's capital. You can watch it right here on the CBN News Channel. In Texas, Houston residents are preparing as Tropical Storm Hannah threatens the coast, and they're taking COVID-19 risks into consideration. The Houston Fire Department has increased its fleet of high-water rescue trucks, and should the storm require those rescues, they'll be there, but with some extra supplies on board, including a watertight yellow case with 300 face masks inside for people being evacuated from high water.
Part of our response is outfitting each of our high water assets with what we're calling COVID kits. So that way we can continue to protect our members in the response and protect the public as we evacuate or rescue them from floodwaters. I would also have all of my medications together. So that way, if there was a need for rapid evacuation or transport to the hospital, as soon as our units arrived, we can rapidly escort you to our unit and transport you.
Weather officials say Hannah is expected to strengthen to a hurricane before making landfall Saturday afternoon. And joining us now is Chief Forecaster from weatherbell.com, Joe Bastardi. Joe, how bad do you think this storm's going to be?
Well, we've been saying it could be a hurricane for a couple of days, even before it started strengthening. It's hitting at a very bad angle. These storms that go into Texas at perpendicular angle, Harvey, one of them, Celia, 1970, that's the benchmark storm at Corpus Christi. They had 162-mile-an-hour wind gusts at Aransas Pass with that storm. Alicia in 83, Claudette 2003, Umberto 2007. When they're coming from a perpendicular direction, right, instead of paralleling the coast like most of the hurricanes do here on the eastern seaboard, they tend to tighten up as they reach land. And this area is notorious for it. Plus, this is the pattern. We've been on several times. Mark said, this is going to be a track race this year. This is going to be the 5th storm to make landfall in the weather belt high impact area that we put out in April. I'm not trying to be pompous or anything like that, but the point of the matter is you could see this stuff coming as plain as the nose on my face, and that's pretty plain right there.
Well, what will happen as it moves inland, and where do you think it's expected to go?
Corpus Christi. Look, Houston is going to get a couple inches of rain, maybe a wind gust of 30, 40 miles an hour. Someone could get 3, 4 inches of rain. But this is not a serious storm in Houston. I'm very concerned about Corpus Christi. It's not going to be Celia. It's not going to be Harvey. But indeed, when you said there was forecast to become a hurricane, I hadn't seen that from the Hurricane Center yet, but because they've been saying a tropical storm, so there's been a little bit of debate between us on that. But the other storm, Gonzalo, we were saying is going to weaken. It's going to weaken. There's another one that's coming off Africa that I think is going to be, I guess it's pronounced Isaias. And that one in 10 to 15 days may threaten the United States. And this is all because of the pattern. So Corpus Christi. And what this thing is going to do is when it comes inland, it's not going to weaken that fast. It's going to, I think it will get all the way to the Rio Grande as a tropical storm. Once again, I'll bring up Celia. 1970, there were hurricane force winds at Del Rio over 250 miles inland from that storm. If you have perfect conditions, even if you're over land, the storm will weaken, but it won't weaken as fast. So I think it's a pretty serious situation for those people. I'm hoping the people around Corpus Christi are taking this very seriously because this thing can ramp up in the early morning hours, comes ashore about noon tomorrow.
Amen to that. Well, we're getting into peak months for hurricane season. You've already talked about this throughout the interview, but kind of break it down for me again, just the big picture of what you all are predicting for hurricane season.
Well, we have high impact areas. Faye's already hit in it. Bertha hit in it. Cristobal hit in it. For instance, Arthur went into that area, and now we're seeing Hannah going into it. The other area that's going to start opening up is that cone from the Northeast Caribbean. They got hit in 2017. Remember, last year and the year before, they didn't get hit. Dorian went north of them and then trimmed the Bahamas, but weakened coming to the coast. So we think that that area in the Caribbean, like 2017, is in jeopardy this year. And those long track storms, this is a year for long track storms, the waves that come from Africa, if they start deepening late in the period, like 60, 65 west, those are the ones that they get to the coast and they're intensifying. So we're very concerned about this. And, we've been saying 2017, 2005, been sticking out like a sore thumb since springtime. And I don't see any reason to back off that. We have a hyperactive ACE index and a high impact year. And I think that's going to be the case.
All right. Chief Forecaster for weatherbell.com, Joe Bastardi. Thank you, Joe, for your insights.
Thank you. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
You too, sir. Overseas now, a series of recent mysterious explosions inside Iran have left many wondering if these mishaps are sabotage against the Iranian regime. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, one of these explosions is getting more attention from intelligence experts than the rest.
The mysterious events range from a shipyard fire to a gas line explosion. While no clear evidence has surfaced regarding sabotage as the cause of all these explosions, Israeli investigative journalist Ronan Bergman says one clearly stands out at the Natanz nuclear facility.
The bombing there, the explosion, the blast that destroyed the whole facility for the installment and balancing of centrifuges in Natanz was a direct result of a pre-planned sabotage. Whoever was behind that demonstrated, I think, the highest capability, nothing less than exquisite, of intelligence collection.
Experts estimate the damage at the facility sets back Iran's nuclear program by as much as 2 years. An unknown group calling itself the Homeland Cheetahs claim responsibility, but might not be the only actor involved.
In the New York Times, we have quoted a Middle Eastern intelligence source that said that Israel was behind this blast.
Bergman draws no connection between Israel and the Homeland Cheetahs. He suspects the Natanz attack could be part of a bigger U.S.-Israel plan.
In another report, we indicated that there are American sources, together with Israeli officials, are thinking of a new policy towards Iran. So not just this specific incident, but a bigger policy that this sabotage is part of, a campaign of calculated operations, not trying to open war with Iran, but trying to send a message that Israel or the United States, or Israel and the United States, would not accept the continuation of the advancement of the Iranian nuclear project.
He adds it's all part of a secret war between Iran and Israel and the U.S. going back more than 30 years since the Islamic Revolution in 1979.
The war has already started. It's ongoing. It's not happening in the battlefield with thousands of tanks and airplanes, but it's happening as war are happening in 2020. Clandestine operations, secret operatives going undercover, smuggling explosives into sensitive facilities, cyber attacks, and everything that is happening in Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq.
The clandestine war pits Iran's regional and nuclear goals against both Israeli and American attempts to do everything they can to stop Iran from getting a nuclear bomb and dominating the Middle East. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
For more stories from the Middle East, you can watch Jerusalem Dateline right here on the CBN News Channel. It's at 9:30 Eastern. Coming up, one worship leader in California is hoping to start a movement across the country, and he's already led thousands to Christ. But before we go to break, here's a look at what's trending on CBNNews.com.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. There's a prayer and worship movement that is taking place in several cities across the U.S. It started in San Francisco and made its way to New York City and even to Washington, D.C. Over the last few weeks, thousands of people have given their lives to Christ. And some say this is just the beginning of a Jesus movement here in America. And joining us now to talk more about this is worship leader Sean Foyt. Welcome, Sean.
Hey, thank you so much. Good to be with you guys.
Talk about when California announced a ban on singing in church. You were one of the first to decide to hold worship services outdoors. Why?
Well, I mean, it was, it was kind of crazy. I mean, I think none of us really thought that they would go that far by infringing on our constitutional rights, just the craziness of it. So we said, okay, let's just bring the party outside. Let's just declare that the church has left the building, and that's what we did.
Do you see this as a solution for churches who have to shut their doors because of the coronavirus?
Well, I see it right now. It's summertime. We're here in California. The weather's pretty mild. We have the ability to get outside. People have been cooped up and they've been quarantined. There's thousands of people on beaches all across our state. And so we just thought it would be amazing to rally people, and to get together in these cities. And it's incredible the response that we've been seeing.
Yeah, tell us more about what you've been seeing at the events. We're looking at video of baptisms and people speaking and singing, and just kind of break it down. What's been going on in all these things?
Well, I think people, they come in and they haven't gathered as the church in months, right? They've been closed down. They've been quarantined. A lot of them are dealing with depression. I mean, we've had more suicide deaths in California than we've had COVID deaths since the beginning of the virus. So there's this massive kind of spirit of death. There's, people are struggling with their jobs and their families, and, alcoholism and drug use is up 400%. It's just insane. And so when we gather together, the power of the presence of God to meet us in this moment of crisis is just profound. And, I've traveled to about, 50, 60 nations around the world, done extensive missionary outreach, but I'm beginning to realize, God's positioning us to do really mission work in our own nation. And now more than ever, people need it, and they're gathering together. And a lot of times we'll start with a core group of worshipers, but then people will just kind of from the outside on the beach or on the bridge from the fringes, they'll just come gather and see what it's all about. Some of them may think it's a protest. And then all of a sudden they hear us preaching the gospel. Like last night in Los Angeles, 40 people gave their life to Jesus on the streets of LA in the middle of a global pandemic.
Wow, that gives me chills. And I'm also looking at video of people being baptized in a fountain. It's just amazing what God is doing. A New York Times opinion article claimed that churches were a major source of COVID cases. Quickly, Sean, do you think that churches have been a part of the problem?
Well, my response to New York Times, and they didn't actually insert my opinion in their article, even though I talked to them for a while. I said, hey, if you're going to try to blame churches, what about Home Depot? What about, there's a water park in our city with 500 kids and families in it, that's still open. What about Costco? What about Walmart? I mean, it's unfair, I believe, the way in which they target the church. And I honestly think there's an agenda behind it.
Wow. And then we're almost out of time, but what message do you think this is sending to other church leaders and even government officials?
Well, my prayer is that it would stir up hope. I just feel like we need a new narrative in our nation. We have been bombarded with violence and cities burning and people fighting and division. And I want people to see that the church is coming together in one of the darkest seasons in our nation's history, that there are bold and courageous leaders that are calling the church to come together. We're worshiping through the storm, and God is showing up.
He is showing up. All right, worship leader Sean Foy, thank you so much for your time, sir. Blessings to you.
Blessing too. Thank you.
Coming up after the break, how one organization is working to help first responders who are overwhelmed with depression and anxiety as they fight to help communities deal with COVID-19.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life, life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Clinical psychologist Dr. Tim Barclay heads up the organization Collateral Damage Project, or CDP. It helps veterans battling post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and depression. The treatment is free of charge. Well, now CDP is offering treatment for first responders and frontline medical workers in the battle against COVID-19 who are, quote, fighting anxiety, depression, and challenged by the difficulty of coping with these unprecedented circumstances. This, too, is free of charge. I spoke with Dr. Barclay for more. First of all, for those who aren't familiar with Collateral Damage Project, give us some background on the organization and the services that you provide.
Sure. Well, Collateral Damage Project is a nonprofit organization that was created a few years ago, back in 2016, 2017, in order to offset the treatment that veterans were being provided and the lack of care, mainly through the VA, and struggling to get veterans access to proper care. And a lot of veterans were falling through the cracks and unfortunately committing suicide in high numbers, which again, unfortunately, is still happening. So Collateral Damage Project was created to take research-based interventions that I've been using in clinical practice for years and offering them for free to those veterans. And we've been getting, great results as indicated and that are reported on our website. So that's going strong.
And now I understand this, too, is free of charge, what I'm about to mention next, that you're offering to provide treatment without cost for first responders and medical workers in the battle against COVID-19. Talk about that and what led you to do this.
Sure. Well, the treatment that we're offering for the first responders and medical workers, it doesn't use all of the research-based techniques and non-invasive brain stimulation and imaging that we do for the veterans with traumatic brain injury and things like that. Because mainly with first responders, we're going to be dealing with some stress, anxiety, acute stress, insomnia in the majority of cases. So in light of COVID and what's been happening since March, the research is still coming out and it's relatively new. So when we look at first responders and healthcare workers, their exposure to COVID is far higher than the general population because they're treating these individuals. And initially in March and in April in such high numbers, it was unrelenting and it was more of an acute situation and work overload added to the stress and anxiety of just being overworked, but then also the additional concerns of for their own health and their own safety, and not only for themselves, but what they're bringing home to their families.
For those who are interested in either donating or interested in the services that CDP provides, what should they do?
They can go to the CDP website, which is www.collateraldamage.org. And there's a special tab there where they can donate to COVID-19 and the first responder cause, and that money will go directly towards them. Or they can call our office, the private practice office. His phone number is Advanced Psychotherapeutics, and the phone number is 434-616-2388. They can make donations there as well. But yeah, we're just looking to offset that trend.
And if people want to take advantage of the services, they can do the same, go to the website to sign up?
That's correct. Yes. They can even sign up for a newsletter that will keep them up to date. And again, on the website, there's information that talks about the different treatments that we go through and things like that.
Okay. Clinical psychologist Dr. Tim Barclay, thank you for your time and your important information. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Still ahead, how one military mom is making sure the needs of troops in the Middle East are not forgotten as the world struggles to fight COVID-19.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
One military mom in Pennsylvania is making sure American servicemen and women are not forgotten, even in the middle of this pandemic. Deborah Housladen started her nonprofit Sneakers for Soldiers after her son, who was deployed, requested a new pair of shoes. Now she's shipping, get this, 300 pairs a month to troops in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. Then when word got out about what the organization was doing, Sneakers for Soldiers raised more than $113,000 in just 2 days. The soldiers say it makes all the difference.
Back home, things aren't great right now. We got the pandemic going on. Just knowing that we're not forgotten while we're out here serving makes the time go by so much easier.
That's wonderful to hear, and great to see her taking a stand like that and sending those shoes overseas. That's going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day and a wonderful weekend.